We're back with a video that everybody's gonna hate because, hey, that's the reptile hobby. Today we're gonna go ahead and tackle responsible reptile keeping. This is an organization that I think I heard of them like a year or so ago, and then I saw in Reptiles magazine not too long ago that Repta announces deleterious genes policy. So you'll understand why we're talking about Repta in just a moment. The context of this video, of course, is the responsible reptile keeping organization. So this deleterious genes policy identifies the same old suspects. This identifies spider, ball python, as well as jaguar carpet python, and then immediately mentions neurological disorders. They make it out, as in there's a policy here that's going to stop or curtail something to do with deleterious genes. Now, this is completely toothless. This is them going to their members of their own organization and imploring them not to do it. Not stopping them, not kicking them out of the organization, not finding them, not lobbying against them, not doing any of that, but simply asking them, hey, maybe you shouldn't breed spider. Which, I mean, all of us are kind of already doing. I'm not even sure spiders are keeping their value on Morph Market anymore. I definitely don't breed spider. I don't support it. Get that out of the way before somebody says that I'm trying to breed jaguar, spider, super motley, whatever, leopard geckos, whatever it is. So this is just completely toothless. It's clickbait. It's a little press release that's trying to get people to reshare this to become members of Repta, which is kind of fun. Now, the reason I brought it up, of course, is that over here on the responsible reptile keeping, this is Peregrine. Hang on. So over here on the responsible reptile keeping website, we'll see that they are, if we go to the bottom of the page here, a member of Repta. Okay, so that's how these two are linked together. Now, if we go ahead and go check out the board of Repta, we've got some people in here with some pretty impressive bios. Now, here's Chaz from Snakes and Adders. This I love watching his channel. When I got my Leonis from Dave Kaufman, this is the first video that I watched. He does a great job copying those little snakes. Love him so much. But I'm really shocked to see him involved in something like this. And I'll explain to you exactly why. So, shoulder to shoulder with Chaz, we have a couple other people, but the one that I want to draw attention to is Joe Weiss. Now, he's credited for the Monkfield group. I don't know if people realize that Monkfield owns Arcadia Reptile. I think they also own Arcadia Aquarium. I don't know, but for the context of this video, Arcadia Reptile is the important part. So, directly on the board of this organization is Arcadia. Right. Okay. So Chaz is standing shoulder to shoulder with a company whose best invested interest is to sell fluorescent lamps and make sure that everybody's putting UV lamps over every single reptile they possibly can, regardless of any sort of evidence or regardless of any sort of indication that they actually need it, independent of any studies that show chromatophoromas and injury inside of these reptiles, independent of any studies that show that people can be injured by these lamps. That's rough. That's rough. So I'm super disappointed in Chaz for showing up here and not realizing, how goofy this is. Now, on this board as well is Peregrine Live Foods. Peregrine is a big distributor over in the UK. Obviously, I can't use them. I'm over here in the US. You'll recognize all these brands here. Now, again, that seems like a little bit of a conflict of interest to have an organization where you have two companies that are explicitly involved and invested in distributing reptile products, directly connected to something like responsible reptile keeping. So let's dig into some more about what this organization is about. So they broadcast free digital and printed media. That's true. If you watch one of their videos, they'll say that they have a dedicated media company, which is kind of interesting. So to me, that means if I go donate to this company, they're just paying their friends. That's what that means to me. I'm going to take a quick segue over to USARK. Now, USARK, I don't have any problems with USARK. Nobody freak out about that. But the way that these organizations generally work is that they receive donations, they receive sponsorships, they receive donated time and resources in order to do things like lobby and in order to do things like spread awareness and information. In the case of USARK, they're not going to tell you that you can't have a USARK sticker in your window because they don't like you. They're not gonna do that. Now, I'm sure there could be an egregious situation where there's injury or animal death or something like that. Maybe USARK will say something, but they're not going to stop the average person from sticking it on their Morph Market or wearing their t-shirt or anything like that. Responsible reptile keeping, however, is a little bit more aggressive. So we see it's kind of a direct threat right in the middle of the page. what it says is, we also seek to oppose and refute those who aim to curtail responsible keeping through their use of misinformation and bias. Now, that's not really directed at anybody, but that's kind of an interesting threat. So misinformation and bias, I want you to remember that, since we've already talked about how their parallel organization talked about trying to ban deleterious genes, even though it's not a ban. It's just them employing members of their own organization not to do this. And there didn't seem to be any sort of penalty, but the assumption, of course, being that those breeders would not be allowed to continue being in the organization if they're going to do something, that against the rules of the organization. But hey, who am I to judge? Maybe they have enough money going through that they're not really concerned about that. Now, the last little tidbit on here is responsible reptile keeping helps reptiles, keepers, and businesses live better. That's a kind of a bold claim. Let's see what they give me when I donate. So it says help refute misinformation from animal rights campaigners. That's a little bit different than the threat on the original page. I'm not sure if this is a carryover or if those are two different kind of topics there. But here we're talking about organizations like People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. There's that ethical word again, right? Now, of course, we know some of the problems with that organization. The ethical keepers, advancing herp husbandry, ReptiFiles, all of that of the world, is you can definitely draw some parallels, which we'll get into better a little bit later. So this says educate and guide new keepers to promote better welfare. Welfare. I'm going to say welfare one more time, and prevent bad press. I'm not 100% sure what that's about or how they're going to do that. See, one of the problems with the reptile hobby, or however you want to say it, is that we have all these people dictating how these animals should be cared for. In a lot of situations, it would be really great for new keepers to have some of this information. However, the average person that's wandering into a PetSmart to buy their Arcadia bulb that's been rebranded as Thrive, that's another fun fact, is Arcadia actually has large commitments to PetSmart. So if somebody wanders into a PetSmart to buy an Arcadia bulb, of course, the idea is that they're going to impulse buy a chameleon while they're there. Responsible reptile keeping is not going to be in the middle of a PetSmart helping people out. That's very unlikely to happen. So let's see. The next point is influence legislation affecting reptile keepers and businesses. I don't know how they promise to influence legislation. All they can do is lobby, really. They can try to spread the word and they can try to lobby, but there's nobody here that's an actual politician or any member of anything that would actually allow the change of legislation. So that's kind of interesting. Fund evidence-based research. Evidence-based, I'm going to say it one more time, evidence-based research that encourages responsible reptile keeping. Now, I'm not sure who they're going to donate to or what kind of research they're going to donate to. I'm not sure if they're going to donate to just, trying to say that Arcadia bulbs are going to cure viruses or whatever, some of these people say on the Advancing Herp Husbandry and over on Liam Sinclair's Silly Reptiles and Research. I'm not sure what evidence-based research they're going to go with, but yeah, let's keep evidence-based in the top of mind, though. Now, of course, the last section is showcase the achievements of responsible keepers and businesses. Who decides what a responsible keeper in business would be? That's kind of interesting. Does this go back to the Repta thing where they're going to decide that you're irresponsible if you happen to have, something like a spot-nosed ball python? Are they going to kick you out of their little organization? We don't know. Are they just going to refuse to talk about you? We don't really know. So that's kind of interesting. So we've kind of introduced responsible reptile keeping is tied up with Repta, which is tied up directly with Arcadia, which has Peregrine involved in there somehow. We're making a circle. We're definitely making a circle here. If we head over to something like the resources or knowledge, they actually have a magazine, which is weird. Who makes a magazine? So if you pop open this magazine, I guess to no surprise, this is actually more advertisements than content as far as I know. I scrolled past the little page. So they are pitching USARK, which is great. I hope USARK gets some money, even though this organization I don't feel so good about. Now, they also, of course, pitch Repta. Tony Wigley, who is a member of Responsible Reptile Keeping, is also a member of Repta. So once again, we've got a direct line there. And then over here, we've got RK publishes ReptiFiles Care Guides. Now, if you've been following the channel, I am not a fan of ReptiFiles, and I'm actually, we'll get into some of that later on because we're going to talk about journalism. Now, it says Herper and author Mariah Healy at ReptiFiles, widely regarded as the most comprehensive and respected care guides on the internet. Wow, that's a bold claim. That is a definite bold claim. One of the other reasons that I open this, though, is because if we go look at this article specifically on plowshare tortoises, let's just go ahead and read off some of the subtopics here. So the demise of the plowshare, saving the plowshare, the great plowshare dispute, etc., etc. These are actually, if you go ahead and like Google this, you'll find this pretty much the exact same article formatted a little bit differently over on Exotics Keeper magazine. I'm not familiar with Exotics Keeper magazine. I think that they did do like a interview with like JTB or something. I might have it confused with a different magazine, but kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and grab the address here. We're going to do some internet sleuthing. So we're going to go ahead and pop this address into the search bar. And the address actually goes directly to Peregrine. So, I mean, we've already established Peregrine as a member of REPTA. REPTA, the Responsible Reptile Keepers stuff is related to REPTA. So how this article got in here, when it was over here on a completely, totally different blog from several years ago. This, so that's really weird. So apparently Peregrine is donating articles directly to Responsible Reptile Keeping. I'm pretty sure there should be a conflict of interest or something there. Since we're talking about conflicts of interest, let's look at this Impress website. So Impress is a company that's supposed to help people publish with integrity. They are supposed to be responsible for making sure that people aren't plagiarizing, that they're, actually, creating articles, not using something like, AI to generate and spam, all that other fun stuff. The reason this is relevant is because down here at REPTA, you might remember that this little logo here is an Impress regulated member, which means that Responsible Reptile Keeping should be held to high standards, as well as whatever they publish. Now, I want to mention again that they're going to distribute ReptiFiles care guides and praise them as some of the best on the internet. I made a video in the past that talked about the Ackie Monitor Care Guide here on ReptiFiles. Right, the first sentence, the Ackie known as the Ridgetail Monitor, Spiny Tail Monitor, or Akkie's Dwarf Monitor. And if we look at Wikipedia, the very first sentence, the Spiny Tail Monitor, also known as the Spiny Tail Monitor, the Ridgetail Monitor, the Ackie Dwarf Monitor. This is the same sentence. So Mariah pretty much opened Wikipedia and her WordPress site and then just started copying things, but in her own words. This is something that a child in middle schooler does. This is something that people are encouraged to do when you do like a book report and stuff like that. The idea is that you learn to communicate in a way that is matching the material that you're rephrasing in your own words. And adults should never have to do this. As far as I know, Mariah Healy is an adult, so I don't know how this is accepted. Now, people will sit there and say, well, this is only one example. And that's exactly what they did the last time I talked about this. But don't worry, we'll get a little bit deeper. At the bottom of this, she does, reference CC by SA, which is Creative Commons license, specifically only for the image that appears at the top, this image right here. Now, she doesn't credit Wikipedia or even link out to Wikipedia, even though the first sentence is identical to the Wikipedia article. There's also several sections of this article that pretty much occur in the exact same order. So she had to have been looking at Wikipedia when she wrote this. She didn't recall this from memory. She wrote this from Wikipedia, period. There's no arguing that. Any of the article, though, doesn't appear as a derivative work of Wikipedia. And Mariah has trademarked and ReptiFiles and copyrighted it under the ReptiFiles name. Explicitly, you are not allowed to distribute these care guides without written permission. So she's copyrighted material she pretty much cloned from Wikipedia, which is a big no-no. That should not be, that's a big no-no. Of course, she's got a bunch of people over here, HappyDragons, BioDude, some of you, Dubia.com. You'll see some of the same old people. I think on the newest version of the website, she's of course got either Responsible Reptile Keeping. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she has Responsible Reptile Keeping, of course. I'll mention also that this says that ReptiFiles offers reptile care information and it's free. It's not free. You come here, you enter an email address, you click her affiliate links. This is a spam website that is made from an article on Medium on how to monetize your blog, period. That's all it is. Now, again, people sit there and say, well, oh, that's only one example. That's only one example. So let's head over to Wikipedia. Now, here on Wikipedia, in the instance of Boa Imperador, Imperator, there is a section that specifically mentions the genetics. Here it is. Okay. So as far as the taxonomy goes, BI was separate from BC because of DNA sequencing. It mentions here 5 to 7% divergence from boa constrictor. The reference for this is Mariah. Mariah is not an authority on this subject whatsoever. So if we look at the actual article that this links over to, she has pretty much, patch written the same sentence, 5 to 7% sequence divergence from constrictor. And then later mentioned this, what she calls a CABI data sheet. This is where this information actually comes from. So instead of going to Wikipedia and referencing the actual scientific information, Mariah has inserted herself in between Wikipedia and references to this information. This is not ethical. This is not moral. This should not pass. And I don't know how people that are, the board of the responsible reptile keepers, Chaz over at Snakes and Adders, Dubia Roaches, Josh's Frog. Well, actually, I'm not sure if Josh's Frog is involved here, but I know that BioDude is. I have no idea how all of these adults, these intelligent adults, do not understand what is happening. Mariah was trying to link farm from Wikipedia. This is gross. This is bad. Mariah is a bad person. Mariah is a bad journalist who copies Wikipedia. On a fun fact, Mariah is actually indefinitely banned from Wikipedia for self-promotion. That's right. Wikipedia has banned her for life for inserting herself into these Wikipedia articles, vandalizing these Wikipedia articles, and promoting her own website. She tried to appeal this with the funniest way possible. So Mariah's appeal was, I request for this account to be unblocked. I receive no compensation for contributing to Wikipedia. Does she know what Wikipedia is? Apparently she knew what it was well enough to go and spam her blog all the way through it, but she didn't understand that you don't get paid to contribute to Wikipedia. The idea of Wikipedia is you're actually offering free information to people, which is supposedly what she does. So once again, she just inserted herself in the middle in order to promote her own website and create a bunch of spam. That sucks. That sucks. So responsible reptile keeping over here. Oh, and this is the latest version of ReptiFiles, of course. Responsible reptile keeping over here is going to distribute this. They are members of an organization that is supposed to stop plagiarism and make sure information is accurate and evidence-based and doesn't have a bias. And this organization itself says that they're not going to spread misinformation and bias, but they're going to push these care guides around that are copied from Wikipedia, inserted into Wikipedia, and then let's see, just for funsies. Now, of course, responsible reptile keeping links out to things like HappyDragons. If you don't know what HappyDragons is, it was supposed to be a morph market competitor where people were just going to have their little friends show up and dictate who's ethical, who's moral, whose animals have all the welfare. I looked into this before, and a lot of these people show up on Morph Market as well, and they're raising crested geckos in tubs just like the rest of us. There's mortar tubs that it's being used, and 2x4s and chicken wire, and everything that everybody else is pretty much doing. And of course, I don't mean everybody else. I mean, whether you're unethical or ethical or whatever false dichotomy that HappyDragons wants to establish here, it's all the same. It's all the same. Everybody's doing the same thing. Now, why they decided to make a separate website is a whole other question, and why they decided to say that they're more ethical than anybody else is pretty interesting. But we're going to jump over here to find out why this is relevant. So responsible reptile keeping pitches ReptiFiles, responsible reptile keeping pitches HappyDragons. HappyDragons links directly to ReptiFiles. You'll notice that this is again a circle. Now let's look into one of these little care guides, right? So who knows where this information got cut and pasted from? Who knows what's going on here? Let's right off the bat in the care guide, UVB strongly recommended. Nothing backs this up when it comes to hognose snakes. We have no information whatsoever that says that UVB should be strongly recommended. These snakes come from here in Illinois. So during the summer, our UV index goes up to like 8 or 9. And then during the winter, it's pretty much 0. So that's like 350 days of the year that you have 0 UVI. That's kind of an exaggeration, but if you lived up here, you'd definitely relate to it. By all means, go check out the weather for Northwest Illinois, where these dudes are from, or Wisconsin or something like that. And then, try to figure out where, this strongly recommended thing comes in. There is a Ferguson zone. I believe this shows up as like a 1 or a 2, but there's no indication of like what season it was or anything like that. I don't know. The UVB thing is there's no actual confirmation for that. So once again over here, responsible reptile keeping, evidence-based care. That right off the bat isn't evidence-based care. Now for funsies, we are going to continue scrolling through this. The UVB thing, of course, if you want to give UVB to your hognose, I don't mind. I don't care. I don't do it for mine because he's an adult. So there's a whole other thing with UVB, vitamin D, and the actual developmental phase of these animals that hopefully we'll get to at a later time. The reason that I bring this up, though, is because there is a section specifically on heat mats. Now, all of these places, Advanced Herp Husbandry, which is a Facebook group, the Reptile Lighting Group, Responsible Reptile Keepers, Mariah Healy, Liam, which of course, shows up at the Animals at Home Network podcast, which Dylan, who runs Animals at Home Network podcast, shows up in Responsible Reptile Keeping video. So again, this is a circle. This is all the same people. It's a big circle. So let's see what they say about heat mats, because Advancing Herp Husbandry, if I remember correctly, actually calls them an abomination of nature and a misunderstanding. So, okay, let's see. So this says nature doesn't have heat mats, and for fossorial species, temperatures underground tend to be cooler than those on the surface, not warmer. This is stupid. This is stupid. Now, people are going to say, oh, that's an ad hominem. Nope, because I'm going to give you the counter argument right now. This is very stupid because if you look at nature, you will find out that this is wrong. These people do not know what a basement is. The purpose of a basement is a consistent temperature. It stays cool in the summer. It stays warm in the winter. A basement is actually insulating. And so you will have basements that are warmer than the surface. Here in Illinois, where we do have a lot of snow, the surface will be, 0 degrees. There'll be -20 wind chill. This is where these animals are from. The surface is colder than underground. Literally. The snow is an indication. Western hognose snakes are not climbing to the tops of trees to worship the sun because in -20 wind chill, they would be popsicles. They would be popsicles. On top of that, there's just so many examples in nature of why this is completely wacky doodle, naive, and just flat out wrong. Again, I'm going to use another example of here in Illinois. When you see all of the leaves fall off the trees and end up in piles, and then snow falls on those piles, you'll find out that a lot of animals, inverts, living organisms will actually go into those piles of leaves. Composting leaves actually generate heat. Composting leaves generate heat. This is the same way that the justification for the termite mounds in Africa that ball pythons supposedly live in. I don't care if you believe that or not, but the termite mound itself has composting material that keeps it warm when it's cool, and then of course the structure keeps it cool when it's too warm. Termites are very sensitive to temperature change, so I'm sure a lot of animals share those termite mounds. Now, between composting material, between the surface having wind chill temperatures, between the surface having snow, between the concept of basements and caves and burrows and things that are not on the surface actually being warmer than the surface, if you dig a hole, you will find out that the ground is warmer than the surface. This is very stupid. This is very, very stupid. I don't know why. Again, did Chaz read this? Did anybody from Reptiles or the Responsible Reptile Keepers, did anybody read this that knew what a basement was, that knows what composting material is, that has ever looked into why a termite mound functions the way that it does? Obviously not. This is not evidence-based. This is to promote people going to buy Arcadia bulbs, who has a member on the board of Repta who sponsors Responsible Reptile Keepers. This is a big circle. This is a big circle. And this is why this is so dangerous. This is very, very dangerous because they've created their own little goofy flat earth-esque Scientology sort of circle. There's one more thing that I want to pull up on here, which is, again, flat out dangerous. So this says recommended hognose feeders: African clawed frogs, cane toads, and axolotls. I have so many questions. So right off the bat, I don't really support selling things that are meant to be pets, and going to a pet shop, spending $25 on an African clawed frog and feeding it to your hognose snake because you think you're ethical. That's not really how that works. African clawed frogs are not generally bred as feeders. There's obviously, of course, a geographic difference between an African clawed frog and a North American hognose snake. But on top of that, let's consider, where these African clawed frogs come from. So if you go to a pet shop, is this thing coming, is it coming in from the wild? Is it captive bred? Is it captive born? You have no idea where this thing comes from. These things live in water. Water has waterborne diseases. People will remember that you're not allowed to sell turtles under so many inches because children were putting them in their mouths and getting salmonella. The clawed frogs are not much different. So these clawed frogs are going to live in warm water that will breed things like Cryptosporidium, that will breed things like Pseudomonas, Salmonella, mycobacteria, all sorts of agents that would affect your hognose snakes. So Mariah, HappyDragons, Responsible Reptile Keeping, all of these people are suggesting that you create a biosecurity nightmare by feeding African clawed frogs and axolotls to your hognose snake. You have no idea what these things are coming in with. Some people will say, well, it's okay because I froze it. Freezing does not kill bacteria. Freezing only reduces the growths of bacteria. This is why you should still cook meat, even if it's frozen. There are flash freezing processes, but your freezer in your kitchen does not do that. So there is absolutely no justification as to why it's being recommended to get an African clawed frog, a cane toad, an axolotl, etc. Some of these feeders, of course, make a little bit of sense because you can get things like green anoles, or however we're saying that word now. You can get dropped gecko tails, you can get stillborn geckos, you can get quail eggs. All of these things make sense. Axolotls, cane toads, African clawed frogs don't make any sense. Redback salamanders don't make any sense whatsoever. This is a biosecurity nightmare that negatively impacts the animal's welfare, period. That's it. That's de facto the answer. There is nowhere where this actually makes sense, and definitely doesn't align with evidence-based keeping from responsible reptile keepers or ethical keeping or any of this other stuff. This is pure trash. This is pure trash. I don't know where she got it from, and I don't know where else the rest of this article is cut and pasted from. Those guides are garbage. They are flat out garbage. So how people keep making ReptiFiles so pervasive, not realizing that it is a spam blog cut and pasted with the wrong information, blows my mind. This is just how backwards the reptile hobby is. So to sort of wrap up this whole thing, so nobody's banning boas yet. Nobody's, banning spider ball python. These are all clickbait articles made by an organization in parallel to responsible reptile keeping that's pushing people to Animals at Home Network, Advancing Herb Husbandry, ReptiFiles, HappyDragons. They're creating a circle of information and a circle of money exchange. They want to keep their friends close so that their voices are amplified and their little thought bubble can't be disturbed by anybody else. It does really feel like Scientology, so that's a little bit rough. That's a little bit rough. I'm sure that I'm going to end up on the oppressive people list because I don't believe you should feed clawed toads to hognose snakes because of general biosecurity that we've known about, since Semmelweis, right? Anyway, so there's the video. This is a scam. That's all I have to say about it.